So we're happy to announce that our sperm donor is... And I'm Tina.
And for those of you who don't know, we are married and we are currently on our reciprocal IVF journey to have a family. We do have a video explaining why we're doing this process. So of course, you can go and watch that one first.
And then today's video is about us picking our sperm donor. So we've decided to use donor sperm instead of someone we know, even though I've gotten multiple offers and to do it the old-fashioned way. If that's your choice, that's completely fine. We just like the idea of the cryobank for the legality aspect of it. They handle all the paperwork and the donor has no rights. I know a lot of people like to pick people they know for the affordability aspect of it, but we don't want to know who our donor is, and that has no appeal to us.
People also ask us the question a lot why we're not using each other's siblings, since we both do have two brothers, but we are immediately turned off by that idea. I guess people ask because the child would technically be genetically related to us in that case, but we never want to have that weird situation of like, this is your daddy, uncle. Our fertility clinic allows you to use any sperm bank that you would like, as long as the sperm can be shipped to them directly in Arizona. They did give us some recommendations, and I know a lot of people do use California, but we were able to find one that had all the features we wanted in a website and was still quite affordable.
And then with our sperm bank, you just have to pay $50 to see all of the profiles, and you get that for 3 months. And so with this sperm bank, it has all the features that we're looking for, and there's no tiered system, so you don't pay more to get more. You get everything with that baseline price. So basically the way the donation website is set up is basically kind of like a profile, kind of like Facebook. So you get to see their pictures and then their features. Some of their features include their eye color, their hair color, it has their height and their weight and their blood type, and also goes into their ethnicity and then their education and occupation. Another aspect that we like of this website is it tells you if they've had any live births or confirmed pregnancies. And then if you scroll down, you can go into their extended info, and that includes an audio interview where you get to see hear their voice. And they answer questions about like their hobbies or their interests and things like that. You get to see their extended profile, which is an extended version into their family's medical history as well. Then you can have their staff impressions, which is basically the staff's interpretation of the donor, and then a personality test alongside with handwritten notes, so you can see their handwriting, which is kind of cool. And then they also have their genetic test results. And then if you really wanted to, they have an option for photo matching where you could take your partner and your baby pictures and combine them and find a donor that looks like them if you want to get really fancy.
And also our donor kind of has similar handwriting to Tina, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
One of the main things to consider when you are first choosing a sperm donor is your CMV status. CMV stands for cytomegalovirus, and everyone is either positive or negative, which just means you've either been exposed to it or you haven't been. It really only affects you if you have a compromised immune system, like during pregnancy, or if you ever needed an organ donation or something like that. So in healthy, everyday people, it's not really a concern. So if you are CMV negative, you would want to have a CMV negative donor. But if you are CMV positive, then you can have a CMV positive donor. And it's always safe, according to our nurse, to pick a CMV negative donor.
Prior to us starting this process, we both had to get FDA required blood work, and that tests our CMV status, STDs, our vitamin levels, and we also found out that we were the same blood type, which is AB positive, so that's pretty cool.
And then with doing that testing, which is FDA required. That means if we do have extra embryos left over in the future, that we don't have to go back and do that testing again. It's already all set, and we would be able to then donate those embryos if that's something that is available to us. Ethnicity was semi-important to us. We are both mixed, and neither one of our parents ever sat us down and were like, this is what you totally are. So my mom is 100% Italian, so I'm 50% Italian. And then my dad is from a South American country called Guyana, but his ancestors, I guess, are from India. So I'm half Indian, half Italian.
And then when it comes to me, on my mom's side, I'm half black, and then my dad is white, but he's mainly Italian. His mom's family is from Sicily, and then his dad's family, my grandfather, we're from the Azores, so that's why my last name is Portuguese. So I'm half black, Italian, and Portuguese.
And then everyone mistakes Tina for being Puerto Rican.
Yeah, I get Puerto Rican all the time.
And then I just get Mexican because we live in Arizona. Tina and I both are part white Italian, so we wanted our donor to at least be white because that's the part that we have in common.
And then I wanted them to be tall, or at least taller than me. I'm about 5'6".
I don't really care too much about height because I'm only 5 feet.
I only care because most people in my family are taller, so that's why.
And then we also kind of a little bit cared about eye color. We wanted someone with colored eyes just for that chance.
Yeah.
Our cryobank does list if the donor has Jewish ancestry. A lot of ethnic groups do have specific genetic disorders to their population, but we were told that specifically the Jewish population does have some things that are not curable. So that's why they do list it on the website, and we did take that into consideration when choosing a donor.
So when we first got our subscription and started searching for our donor, we wanted to make sure that we were looking at all open donors. You can either pick an anonymous donor or an open donor. An open donor just means that when the child turns 18, they're able to contact them. We would never want to pick an anonymous donor just because we wouldn't want to take that choice away from our child.
So we did start out by making a list from the website of all the donors that we did like. That gave us about 15 options. We then did find out that we were both CMV negative, which means of course we had to cross off all of the donors that were CMV positive. The next thing we looked at is if they had IUI washed vials available. That was what was required by our clinic for IVF. We then, because we're on a time crunch with Tina leaving for the military, had to make sure that there were vials available from those donors, and then that left us with about 4 options.
So out of those 4 options, our number 1 choice and our number 4 choice are carriers of a genetic disorder. It's actually the same one. And then our 2nd and 3rd choice aren't carriers of anything, so that's what brought us to do the genetic testing.
We were a little back and forth on whether or not we did want to do the genetic testing. Between both of us, it was going to be an additional $600 cost, which is quite a bit. And there was a time constraint, like we were saying. The genetic testing does take a full 14 days to get back to the clinic. So we were scared we weren't going to have enough time and our start date might get pushed back.
But after speaking to the nurse, she assured us that the timing would work out because we had our heart set on our number 1 choice, even though he was a carrier for something.
The genetic testing that we did basically can tell you if you have a genetic disease or if you are a carrier for one. Most people are a carrier for something, but that doesn't mean it's going to cause any problems in you or you're going to have any symptoms. Usually the rule of thumb is that if both parents are a carrier for something, then that means that they can then pass along to their child. So of course, if we were doing this the conventional way, then you wouldn't really know if you passed anything along until after the child was born. So of course, we do feel very fortunate that we are able to know that our number 1 choice for a donor is a carrier for something, and that then we're able to do the testing to make sure that we wouldn't pass anything along to our children.
And with that being said, on the rare factor of matching, Aaliyah and I are both carriers of 2 things, and one of them is actually the same thing. But since we're not mixing our genetics and our first choice doesn't match any of those options, then it's not going to be a problem.
And we do think it's really funny that we have the same blood type, we're both CMV negative and we have one of the same carriers for something. It's just interesting.
Yeah.
The cool thing with being able to get the genetic testing is you are assigned a genetic counselor who can go over your results and the sperm donor's results if your doctor's office and the cryobank use the same genetic service. So we were lucky enough to have that, where they were able to look at both of our results and recommend a donor that was genetically compatible with both of us, and that's how we ended up getting the okay to use our number one choice. Our clinic likes to have the donor sperm in the building before you even start injections, just so there are no timing issues with the cycle. We were still waiting for our genetic test results to come back, so we were pretty stressed because our second choice donor, who is not a carrier for any genetic disorders or diseases, he only had 10 vials. And then one day we went back and checked and he was down to 3 vials. So we had to call the cryobank to ask if we were able to purchase our second choice donor, wait for our test results to come in, and then go ahead and swap it for our number one donor. Typically that's not allowed, so we actually did have to email with their manager and get special permission to do that. The only case that they usually let you do that in is if we were to buy like our number one with a genetic carrier and we came back with the same one. Since it's medically necessary, then you'd be allowed to swap. I definitely would recommend not being afraid to ask those questions, especially if you are on a time constraint or something, because it was extremely easy. We just emailed him, asked the question, he was like, yes, and then we did it.
Luckily, we were able to go with our number one choice. So all we had to do was call our cryobank to make the exchange since we actually purchased our second donor's vials. We were kind of worried that they were gonna potentially mix them up since we are swapping, but they reassured us that they never pulled the vials. They don't put our names on it. They kind of just made a note in our file. So when we did call to make the exchange, that's when they were putting the note on there, or putting our names on there, because we were actually gonna get them shipped. And they've reassured us once again that they've never had a mix-up at that cryobank ever.
And she said that they like check 4 times, so 4 times going in and 4 times going out. So we were comfortable with it. We did end up purchasing 4 vials of donor sperm. Our office did require at least 2. Really, you only need 1 vial, but they wanted to have a backup just in case something went wrong, I guess. And we do want to make sure that we have enough of our sperm donor for all of our children. We want all of them to be biologically related. So we ended up to do 4, even though 5 was the deal at the cryobank. If you buy 5, you get a year of free storage, and you also get free shipping. But we didn't want half of our vials to be at the cryobank and half of our vials to be at the office and then have to pay 2 storage fees. So we ended up just doing the 4, shipping them, 2-day shipping to our office, and then we just pay for the storage there.
And then each vial for the sperm is about $690. Then it's $180 for the shipping, and then about $45 a month just to store the sperm. And then when we had it shipped to our fertility facility, we wanted to make sure that it was in both of our names, just when it's Aaliyah's turn, when she's using her eggs, that we don't have to get each other's permission or they have a mix-up or something like that. So they made sure to put it in both of our names.
Yeah, so I don't walk into the clinic and say, oh, I want to do IUI, and they're like, oh, well, that's Tina's.
Yeah, so we just made sure that they would do that for us, and they did. So we are fortunate enough to be able to go with our number one choice even after the genetic testing. I mean, we did like our number 2 choice. It's just our first one really checked all of our boxes.
He actually looks like Tina when she was younger and like her dad's side of the family. He has dark hair, he has colored blue eyes, he's tall. He is Filipino, German, and Swedish, which is great. And the staff impressions said that he was smart and handsome, and on his audio interview he actually had one of the best answers to why he wanted to be a donor. So that was really unique and stood out to us, and we're so comfortable with him overall. Finally, the last thing that we do like about our cryobank is that they actually do give you the donor's first name instead of just a donor ID number. When we talk about our sperm donor, we actually do call him by his first name. It doesn't mean that he's involved in any way, but it does make it so he's not just some specimen. He is an actual person.
So we're happy to announce that our sperm donor is...
Alright guys, so if you're ever on day like 7 through like 12 of injections, make sure your partner has food.
Yeah, I am hungry all of the time. I haven't really started like feeling a lot of symptoms, but like I guess being on all these hormones, you can either get an appetite or lose your appetite, and I am hungry all the time. Like I want 2 dinners, I want snacks, I need like a full meal. I have cravings for certain things. Like I'm like, I want this. Like so, I've had a craving for YCs, so we went and got it. Good choice on these end. But yeah, I'm just like hungry all the time.
Yeah. So we're about to film our video about our sperm donor, but Tina needed a lunch break first.
It's like one of those, what do you call them? Mukbang, whatever. It's like one
We
of
don't
those.
know.
Eat this delicious food, and then finish editing and filming our sperm donor video, which will be played soon, and we'll see you guys after that.
Bye.